The HaloPSA podcast is back, and this season we'll be diving into workplace culture. We'll be talking to culture experts, the authors, and member of the team to uncover the secrets of creating a positive, productive, and inclusive work environment. So, have you ever wondered, what does Tim Bowers do? Or rather, what doesn't Tim Bowers do? This week on the pod, I'm joined by the head of our HaloPSA product, and we delve a little into our culture, hiring process, and why imposter syndrome might actually be a good thing. But first, Tim shares a little bit about his journey at Halo.
So when I finished my degree, there was 4 people at Halo. I think I was employee number 5, maybe 4. And it was technically a grad scheme. Everyone that joined was a graduate still. Yeah. And it was much more intense than it is now because it was straight in. There wasn't really any training. The training was very much on the job, and it was first day, here you go, here's a handset, answer calls, help customers figure it out. The application was a lot smaller back then, so it's probably a bit easier to understand how the application worked. But in my first week, so there was 4 of us in the office, and there was a trade show in London, and in the first week, that was when the trade show was, so 3 of the team had to go to London from Tuesday to Thursday. So on my second day, I was in the office by myself for 3 days on support duty. So just me answering all the calls. And I'd literally sometimes have 3 calls going at once. So you'd have two desk phones and then potentially a headset or your mobile. We used to use our mobiles back then. The desk phones we had, the work phones, wouldn't call international numbers because the phone provider we had wouldn't connect us. So if we ever had to call an American client, we just used our mobiles, which they were paid for by the company. But yeah, you just have to use a mobile to call them. So you sometimes get calls back because they obviously have your mobile number then. So they can just call you whenever they want. And you don't know who it is.
In the middle of the night.
Yeah, middle of the night. But yeah, so I was left by myself for 3 days and it was awful because I didn't know how the application worked really. I got shouted at by customers. But we got through it. Like, no one left. The customers were all happy at the end of it. I worked it out, and that's what you had to do. It was just work out how to fix the problem or how to work around the problem. So, which is the same as what anyone on support does now, really. They get a bit more help. Yeah, they get a bit more of an intro. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's quite a good way of learning to be thrown in at the deep end sometimes. Maybe not that deep, but not too shallow either. If you do, you then know what it's like, and you know what it feels like to be out in the deep, and it's not scary when it happens next time. Then
It's good life skills, not just job skills.
Yeah, I think so. Because then it is just like, well, I've done that before. I survived it. It wasn't that bad. Yes, someone got upset with me, but I'm here and it was fine. I don't think I'll ever have another job. Yeah, I mean, I told Paul that after 2 years, I think, pretty much, that I could never imagine myself working anywhere else or leaving or anything like that. So just pay me 20 grand and I'll stay. I don't think I'd ever have another job that would, I don't know, turn my head or make me want to leave here, because I just get everything I need from life. I get, not from my whole life, but no, I've got kids and stuff, and I like them as well. But but no, everything from a career I get from Halo, and there's loads of opportunity and loads of new things we're doing all the time, and I don't see why anywhere else would be able to offer anything better than this place.
We've also just done all of the roles at Halo.
Yeah, so when I started, I worked on the support, but we used to do software development at the same time, because you'd need to know a bit of software development to support the product back then, because we didn't really have any manuals or anything like that, and so you had to go in the code and work out why it's doing that or why isn't it doing that, and make a quick change to fix it. So I done that and worked as a developer for 2 years, and probably around then I started doing implementations as well, maybe a bit earlier than that. But yeah, so I started doing the consultancy side of the job, where you're setting the system up for customers and going on site and things like that and configuring it for them. I've probably done that for a year and a half, and then worked in sales for about a year-ish at the same time as working in the consultancy team. But I wasn't very good at sales, I don't think.
I'd love to see you in sales.
I I'm not very salesy. I'm very you can consult your way to a sale, basically. So you don't really have any sales skills as such. You because it's just problem solving. Well, that's the way I saw sales. Is they've obviously got a problem and they're looking for software. What are the problems? That's like step 1 is identify their problems. Step 2 is show them how you can solve them, and that's basically it. Sometimes step 1's hard because they don't know what the problems are, or I don't know, there's problems they're not aware of, or the whole team isn't there or whatever. So you have to do a bit of work to uncover all the problems. But then step 2 was what I like doing. That's problem solving. So that's great. Like if I can find out what the problem is, I'll just go and solve it, whether it's developing something or agreeing that we can develop it if they sign up, or just showing them on the call. It does mean that your sales cycle is really long. Because really the skill of a good salesperson keeps the sales cycle short. They find the customer's requirements, they can show them they meet them, and then they can sign them up, and it doesn't take too long. Because then you can get on to the next one, the next one, the next one. And that's the end goal, really. But I was never very good at that, so I didn't spend too long on sales. Yeah.
So the big question that everybody asks is, what does Tim do now? What do you spend your day doing?
Yeah, so nowadays it's a lot of I still do software development. So I'd say out of a 8-hour, 9-hour day, I probably spend 2 hours, maybe 3 hours doing software development. But that's what I also do when I'm at home in my spare time, once the kids are in like asleep or whatever. And if Amy, my partner's gone to bed or whatever, I'll just stay up and do another 2 or 3 hours of software development.
Do you mean on Halo or just like a side?
On Halo,
okay.
Because I enjoy it. Like it's fun. I don't actually enjoy the act of developing software that much. Like it's not the writing the code that's fun. It's more the working out the problems and solving them. Writing the code's like you have to do that to solve the problem, but like it's it scratches an itch where not much else can, because it's really gratifying being able to go, oh, this thing's causing a problem for 200 customers. I can do something about that, and I can fix that in an hour, and make 200 customers' lives easier.
Okay, yeah.
That's why I do it, really. That's why I liked Halo to start with, because it's customer focused. It's all, for me anyway, hopefully for everyone else, it is about making the customer's experience as positive as possible, as easy as possible using the software. So yeah, but other than that, I handle pretty much all of the hiring process. So that's probably, an hour, maybe 2 hours a day. Sometimes it's really busy in the summer because there's loads of applicants, and sometimes it's a bit quieter. But I'd always want to do that, I think. I don't think we've always had very senior people who really get the Halo way doing the hiring process, because it's the most important thing for the company. Don't know if every company sees it like that, because I think sometimes they just think, right, we need 3 developers. Let's make sure they can write code and they meet the requirements. We don't really care about who they are too much. Let's just find 3, sign them up, and put them in that team. But for us, it's not really like that. It's much more, they have to be right.
Well, it's a bit like an ecosystem. If you kind of bring the wrong people in, it will just change the dynamic.
Yeah.
It can make it very like negative or very, I don't know, cutthroat or something, or very...
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and there's a balance to it as well. I think we put quite a lot of effort into making sure that when 6 people start, that there's a good balance within that 6, and they're not all the same person. Because we want diversity. We want different types of people. It's not like there's one type that we want and that's it. Yeah. And we try and mix them up a bit so that it's going to be a bit more interesting, and they've got different ideas and different approaches. Like, although we hire graduates, some of them will be a bit older, and we try and make sure that each group's got 1 or 2 that are a bit older, because they're generally a bit more, I don't know, mature, maybe. Not always, but hopefully. So yeah, I've always tried to keep hold of the recruitment stuff. I get help. You were in an interview with me 2 weeks ago.
That's true, can confirm.
Yeah. Because it's good to get perspectives from other people as well, because I don't want it to be just me that or just someone else, or even if it was two people, just those two people that gets to decide who everyone else has to work with. Because you have to sit next to these people every day for hopefully for years. So they have to be a good fit. And if you get, because we hire quite quickly, so this year we'll probably hire 35 maybe in the UK, which is quite a lot because it's a big jump from where we're at. But you can definitely damage a culture or the environment, whatever it is that you've made, by hiring the wrong kinds of people. Because 35 is a lot. That ends up making up, I don't know, 15, 20, 25%, whatever it is, of your current staff. So that can change the culture, because the culture really is the sum of all the people that are working there. You can't make a culture and just enforce it on people.
You can try.
You can, but that's not really a culture then. That's more like a
dictatorship.
Yeah, dictatorship. Or like, I don't know, you're trying to direct them at that point.
It'd be good to talk about, was it this year? Last year? Your NPS score for PSA. Obviously, you're very heavily involved in that.
Yeah.
You run that product?
Yeah, I run obviously the HaloPSA product. I don't actually know what the NPS score was.
68, wasn't it? 68?
But I don't really, it's that thing where I don't have an over-reliance of data and it doesn't mean that much to me. Where a score of 68, I saw it and I guess it maybe fed my ego a little bit, I guess. But I don't really care, because I sit down with the team. Like, I'm sat in the middle of them every day, and I know how they're getting on. So I didn't need to see a score. I guess it was confirmation, but I would know anyway if they weren't enjoying it, because they would just, maybe not the newer people, but everyone else would just tell me if there's a problem.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah.
We've always had that openness in the team, and most of I guess Halo's always like that, where people would just be able to speak to someone, and anyone would come up and speak to me. I mean, I get new starters, I sit right next to two of the new starters, and they'll come and ask me stuff sometimes if it's related to Halo or something specific about the application, and they've got a problem, then I'll help them with it. And I think that's because you're in there every day, you can feel it. You get a good idea of how people are getting on, and if they're enjoying it, and if people are stressed.
So you can tell these things.
I can tell it with people that I know.
Okay.
Because they're being at that point, they're being genuine. The problem with recruitment is that it's very rare that they're being genuine.
There's an incentive to lie when you're trying to get into a company, but once you're there,
and they come in with a certain set of preconceptions about what I'm going to be like as someone interviewing them, and the kind of questions and behaviours I'll have, which are normally, I'd say, completely wrong, because they're expecting it to be, I don't know, like a stuffy environment where you've got three people sat opposite you on a table and grilling you and, I don't know, asking you difficult questions and asking silly stuff like, give me an example of a time that you've resolved a conflict and stuff like that. Like, no one cares about that. I normally just have a chat with them and don't ask. You probe when there's stuff to probe about. If there's stuff on the CV that's obvious, then there's questions. But other than that, you just have a chat with them and see what they talk about. You try and relax them. That's essentially it. Like, you try and get them out of this is an interview, I'm asking you some strange questions, into like, we're just two people or three people, whatever, having a chat about stuff. And then hopefully they'll be a bit more open. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes you can tell they're at a level of anxiety or nerves where they're not going to let their guard down. But I think most of the time you can. It helps if you're really open about stuff in the interview as well, which is probably why I probably overshare a little bit in interviews from like a personal level and stuff, and also stuff about Halo, just because it's like, here you go, here's everything that you might want to know about us. It's all out, and if you want to reciprocate and be open with me, then that's fine. Hopefully that works. So the other bit of my day probably is just someone will come and chat to me every 15 minutes. Different person will come and ask me something, and I'll be available. It's like the most important thing. I'd never want anyone at Halo to, unless they're doing something critical, I'd never want anyone to say, no, I'm too busy.
Yeah.
If they do, they should be saying, no, I'm too busy. Can you speak to that person there? Because they're free. Like, you shouldn't have to be hunting around for an answer. It should be the first or second person you speak to. And yeah, there's not very many excuses you can have for not giving someone a minute or two of your time.
Yeah, no, that's true. Most people are almost always available.
Yeah.
I think some people get the idea that you're very, especially customers, you're very present, very like contactable. And you're like there all of the time, day and night.
I mean, I kind
Are
of
there
am.
two of you?
Oh, there is Tim Burton Wines, and we've got the same name. So maybe people will think it's
Somebody
the
did.
same
External
person.
was saying they were looking for Tim, and I was like, great. Oh no, wait, which one?
Yeah, it could be that. I mean, I am available most of the time, and I try and make myself available in US hours as well, because we've got so many customers over there, and an office over there.
But that's a lot of hours. Like, how do you? You've got a family. I'm sure you've got other interests to be doing.
It's just about it's about keeping it in a balance. And I probably said this in an interview you're in, and it's not my thing. I think I saw this on LinkedIn, and I just thought it made sense to me. But where people see work-life balance as a set of scales where they're trying to constantly keep them in balance and in check. So they're constantly saying like, oh, I've done a bit extra work today. I'm going to make sure I come in late tomorrow. And they're constantly trying to keep them exactly in balance. Whereas I think it's much better to see it as like a swinging pendulum. That's your weight on the end. And yeah, sometimes it's going to swing out all the way over here and you're working on a Sunday at 10 p.m. because you need to get something done. But sometimes it goes the other way.
Yeah,
and you can just switch off for a day and not work that day because you've had a rough week. And I think it's much better for people to see it like that. That also works for over like long periods. Like that pendulum swing, if you kind of look at it from a more zoomed out view, could be a 30-year period. Or your whole life. And actually, I'd much rather work really hard for 20 years, 30 years when I'm 20 and be able to retire when I'm 50. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
That's the thing is, once you've got that, that's like, okay, that's it now. I'm going to go and work hard for that many years, however many years it takes.
Yeah.
And I don't have these other, questions about what could I be doing with my spare time. Because it's like, well, that will come at some point if I wanted to. I might get to like 50 and be like, I'm not ready to stop. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
So I just see it as me putting the work in now to have economic, financial stability or whatever later on, and to be able to provide that to people around me.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I do it and why I'm available all the time, because I know it will help me get there and help the company get there quicker.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, if I'm on Reddit at 11 p.m, it's really difficult. It's terrifying on Reddit. Yeah, you can mess up very easily. There's a line that you have to tread very carefully. Most of it's just about being present, like you say, and being available and helping. But that's, sound a bit silly, but that's easy for me because I actually care about the customer.
Yeah.
Which probably sounds really, corporate and cliche.
It's like Tim cares about you.
Yeah. But I do. Like when I don't know, all the customers that you might potentially see as like a lower value because it's a small MSP or something like that, they don't get any different amount of my time because it's the person I'm helping. And I don't care at that point. I'm not thinking like, what's their value or whatever to the company. It's like, no, I'm in a conversation with another human being that's got a problem and I can help them. Why would I not help them?
I think that's the thing. A lot of people have like very strong relationships with their clients. And so it feels like you're personally letting them down if you don't help.
You are.
Yeah.
Like, I know that. I don't know them that well. Maybe I've never met them in person.
Yeah.
But they've contacted me and I've helped them out with something before, or they know who I am, and there's a personal connection there then, and that's why I help people, or why I'm available a lot, because like I said earlier, for me it's still about helping people. Like my job is basically to help people, which is why I'm available all the time, why I make myself available down in the office to other staff. It's because I want to help people. I'm not really on some journey to be I don't know, like some powerful CEO, manager. Like none of that means anything to me.
You're known for being incredibly power hungry.
I don't care about any of that. Like it's just if I can help people, then I'll do it. If at some point I'm not helping anyone at Halo, that's when I'd probably leave. That's when I'd probably quit and find something where I can help people. Because I don't think I'd be able to do it and put in, I don't know, like the time into it that I do and the energy if I wasn't helping people. Because otherwise it's just a bit meaningless, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I guess people have different motivators, though. Like, some people aren't just naturally inclined to that.
Yeah,
And that's
I think
fine,
so.
but...
Well, I do think that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't think they should work at Halo, though. I don't think I want anyone... I don't want to work with anyone that doesn't care about the customer and the customer's experience and whether they're okay and having problems and can I help them. That should always be kind of where you start off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if they don't, then they shouldn't be at Halo.
What do you think is specifically so special about Halo? Because it is very different.
Yeah.
Not like other places.
I mean, I think the main thing would be that we hire pretty much, not exclusively, but pretty much exclusively graduates. So people who are at the start of their career and are really ambitious, really motivated, really open to learning still. They've just come out of uni a lot of the time, or maybe they've had another job, but they've recently finished education. And they're still in a bit of a learning phase where they're still open to taking in lots of information very quickly. But that means that, it means you can teach them really fast. It means there's no limits yet to their, I don't know, where they think they can go or what they can do, because they haven't had that experience at other companies of hitting barriers that they feel like they can't overcome because it's not something they can solve. It's a manager who doesn't want you to progress, or it's the company isn't growing fast enough for me, or any of that. Like most of the barriers for progression, I'd say almost all of them are removed at Halo. And it's really clear they're removed because you can see examples of people who have progressed really quickly. So there's examples of people after 3 years who are running part of the company, or I don't know, running a department or whatever after a few years. And everyone can see that and say, I could do that. That could be me. Whereas at other companies, you wouldn't. You'd go in there and see like, wow, that guy's 45 and he's only just started doing that role. And he's had to work for 25 years to get to that position. So there's that. I mean, that's part of it. The other reason it's great to have graduates is just the ambition. So it's them seeing where the company can go. Like they don't know what to expect. They don't know what's realistic and what's not. So they're not limited by, we can't do that. That's too big.
Because I think a lot of things as well, people in other companies, they'll look at what the industry is doing and then their beliefs are limited by that. Whereas if you're just getting people and then teaching them, they don't really know what's possible. And so they could think about something that's completely crazy and you're like, oh yeah, that's actually a good idea.
Yeah.
And you get that new innovation sort of thoughts.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's definitely something to that because we see that in the MSP world all the time. And it's probably exactly the same with ITSM where we're coming at everything with a different perspective. A lot of the time it's a perspective of, I don't know, I need to learn this. So having imposter syndrome or whatever is a massive thing. Probably, I would expect everyone at Halo to have imposter syndrome almost all the time.
Can I read out your email? I've got it here. So occasionally we get sort of like strange emails round and they're sometimes about specific things and sometimes not. And you put something that said, when you talk about feeling like you fit in or are comfortable in your role, some people call this imposter syndrome. And it's always described as a negative feeling. I'd actually change this and say, if you are growing, you constantly feel like this. I've been here 12 years and I still feel like an imposter most days. Which is really interesting because a lot of people talk about imposter syndrome, but I've never heard anyone kind of turning it on its head and it being a positive thing.
Yeah. Well, who did I hear say that? It was a podcast.
It's not yours, Tim.
It's not. It's Jimmy Carr.
Is it Jimmy Carr?
Yeah, Jimmy Carr. He was talking about it a lot and saying that he feels like it all the time, and he's always felt like it. And there's so many greats of comedy or whatever that he'd never be one of them. And actually, that's what's made him into one of the greats of comedy, because he never would have got there if he didn't feel like that. And he said, I can't remember if he gave specifics. He might have given specific other comics who he thinks their perception of themselves is that they're great.
Oh, okay.
And they're not.
Yeah.
Because none of the greats would think like that.
Yeah.
And it's a really good tell for whether someone is actually genuinely going to be great at some point. Doesn't mean they're great now, but if you're feeling imposter syndrome, you will be great one day. Because you're going to keep going and keep pushing and keep trying harder, because you never feel like you're good enough. But that's a great thing to feel, because that's how you get better. If you think you're good enough, that's when you stop getting better.
Yeah.
Maybe not all the time, but you won't get better quickly unless you feel like you don't fit in or you're not good enough.
Yeah, I think it's just, if you are comfortable in what you're doing, you're probably not stretching yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a natural feeling of, I don't know, when you're back in tribal mode and you've got to do something for your tribe, whatever it is, whatever your job is or your role is within your tribe, and you have to get better quickly, and you see other people doing it, and you have to go and do it as well.
What do you think your role would be in a tribe? What do you think you'd be doing?
Do
you think you'd be like killing the animals, or do you think you're more of like a gatherer?
I don't know.
Do you think you're looking after the children? Do you think you're like the tribal chief?
Well, like a wizard, maybe.
Like a shaman.
Shaman. Yeah, I'll be the tribal shaman.
You know what? You kind of are of Halo. Like, people come to you, they're like, I'm stuck with this problem, and you kind of solve it. So
yeah, I'll solve it.
maybe you should change your LinkedIn.
Solution finder. What? Shaman?
Yeah.
Halo shaman.
Halo shaman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's good for people to have imposter syndrome. I think we try and talk about it a bit in interviews, where it helps prepare them for their first, well, hopefully forever, but at least when they get here, they'll definitely feel like that.
Oh yeah,
see
absolutely.
Loads of people, and it can be intimidating, because you get here and there's people, like I say, that have been here 2-3 years that are doing amazing things in very senior roles, or what would be very senior roles at other companies, and they probably feel intimidated by that. But that's fine. They have to just be okay with that and be comfortable with feeling like I couldn't do that.
Being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's it, basically. Because that's it. That's the reality. And I feel like it every day, pretty much, because I always end up doing roles that I've never done before. Yeah. I'm often stepping into someone else's shoes to do something that I've never done, or I think they're better than me at it. And there's loads of other companies in the same space that are doing amazing things that seem so much more impressive than what we do.
Yeah.
There's a load of reasons why I feel like it.
Does it not kind of get tiring after a while? Like if you wake up every day for like a month and you just feel so like...
Well, I've been doing it for 12 years.
And you're exhausted.
And there's not a day, I don't think there's a day where I feel like I know exactly what I'm doing and I'm super comfortable, and there's nothing in the next week or 2 or 3 weeks that I have to do that isn't a bit scary.
Yeah. But I guess some days you kind of wake up and you're like, well, it's going to be difficult, but I think I got it.
Yeah, there is I do some stuff. I mean, that's maybe that's why I like doing software development still, because that's like my comfort.
A safety blanket.
Because it's like, I know how to do that. I've been doing that for years.
Yeah.
Like, I am pretty confident that I'm a good software developer. That's like,
so does that mean you will be a good software developer if you think you are one?
Yeah, that probably means I'm not a very good software developer.
That's not what they say on the streets.
I don't say great, though. I said I'm like good. I can do it. I can manage that.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever be a great software developer. Like, some of the software developers here are great, and I get them to help me with stuff, and I can't do it, and they do it, and I'm just like, wow, that's mad. How could you figure that out? So I don't think I'll ever be a great software developer. I think I'm good. Which is different. But that's probably why I do it a bit, because it's a bit of comfort. It's like, I'll go and do something that doesn't scare me just for a little bit.
Yeah, and then build back your confidence.
The terrifying stuff again, and the self-doubt and all that stuff. But yeah, I just think it's healthy, and people should be doing that.
Slight segue, but the unused licenses. It's a very eNPS.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a bit more context to what that means.
We've always wanted to do it. We've always wanted to make it possible for people to only pay for what they're using. It's been difficult in the past for technical reasons because we don't track enough information about what they're using and what's not used. But because now everyone's on the new app and on the right version, it should be very easy to track. And then people are only paying for what they're using. Because that's kind of the way that hopefully things go. And a lot of companies are doing something like that, where it's usage based essentially, and not just because you signed up and said you want it for 3 years and you're going to use 20 every month or whatever, that's what you have to pay, even if your company runs into problems and you've only got 15 people. Unlucky, that's what you signed. Which, I mean, I get the other side of that, of saying, oh, it's the contract, so that's your fault.
Yeah.
But I just think that's not a very fair way to do business. But you'll see it, other companies, other industries do it a bit. They don't seem to do it in business software that much. But I think that's because there's a load of reasons why it's very easy to do it in business software. Like there's a lot of reasons why companies have to do it. They haven't got a choice. Everyone's doing it. It's basically the status quo. And I think hopefully we can maybe change that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not going to change the world massively. Like it's not
yet.
It's not going to make a huge difference. But I think if it makes it a bit easier for people, and if it makes them a bit less, I don't know, nervous or whatever about signing up and saying we're going to pay for that many. If something goes wrong with your company and you lose a big client and you're going to have to let off some staff, you don't also have to carry on paying for them.
Yeah.
And it won't kind of compound their, I don't know, difficult times they're going through.
Yeah. And it'll probably help the smaller businesses.
Yeah.
MSPs sort of the most.
Yeah, it will help the small ones a lot more. But even the bigger ones, I don't know, if they've had to do like a redundancy or layoff, they could be able to claim some of it back. It should be good.
Thanks to Tim for being on the pod, and thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, you can follow for more. And if you'd like to be a guest, feel free to email at podcast@imaginehalo.com.